I am resident of Collinwood for YouTube, Joel Sains, joined here with Don Schmidt. How are you, man?
I'm doing great tonight, Jewel. How are you?
I'm doing great. We're here to talk about the three crazy women who jumped off Widow's Hill, the widows of Widow's Hill, Rachel Comstock, Abigail Tolliver, and Margaret Finley. So I have to ask you a question. How great was it that Roger Collins, Lewis Edmonds, was telling the tale of the widows to Victorian winters when they're standing there on Widow's Hill and they're looking out in the ocean and you hear the wind and he's telling her the tale of the widows?
Well, I'm glad that you jogged my memory because I remember that scene and now that you jogged my memory on that, it did that kind of just set that space up for legends and problems for the entire series. I thought it was a great scene. It was within the canon. I think it was iconic.
Right. There was a question on Twitter way back ago. Was Josette's death the reason the legends of Widow's Hill? And I had to put, well, no, because the widows had jumped prior to Josette. So Widow's Hill was already a legend before Josette's death, which we'll get into Josette's death because she's the most famous person to leap off of there, or do a cannonball dive, as we'll say. and not make the water. I don't think anyone's. I think who was it? Adam is the only known survivor of widows.
Yeah, so you get semi-superhuman powers, I guess.
How much credit does Robert Rodan and Adam deserve? Just that should be a legend in itself. The fact that there was a survivor going off there, right?
He could justify having a "I survived Widow's Hill" T-shirt.
Right. You see all these roller coaster T-shirts. I survived this. I survived this. Well, Adam's got everybody because he could literally say, "Bitches, I survived Widow's Hill. None of y'all did that shit."
I agree.
Oh my god. Here's what I find real weird. We don't know. Now, we know their last names, their first and last names, but we don't know their husband's first names. You find that weird?
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it, but you think that the men would have been connected
right.
a little more to the story because each one of them had a story about how the ship was lost. I mean, the circumstances would have been interesting. Oh, it went down in a storm, yada yada. Well, maybe not. Maybe there was some funky thing that happened. I don't know, but that's a great point. I had thought about that, but it would be interesting to hear more about the husbands.
I really think the one thing too, their husbands never came home from their ships. So each ship was lost, not just like the husbands, the ships themselves, the crew really too. And it's like, so the saying goes, the sea is my grave, my grave is the sea. Before they jumped, that's what they said. So 3 different women said the same thing. I'm sort of wondering, do you think there's and I know it's a little further, it's further south of Collinsport and it's like down in the port, like the Keys, but do you think the Bermuda Triangle has anything to do with them like never coming back?
God, you're bringing up some good points. Well, it could have been. It depends on where they were going, but there was a lot of trade coming out of that area, going all the way up the eastern seaboard at that time. Did they get cursed or spooked by something? Did something attack? Did something weird happen? I don't know. That's a really good. It could have been. It could have been. Somehow is it cursed out there? I did have the idea is something cursed out there, and Bermuda Triangle is definitely one of those legends.
That's the thing too. I'm glad you brought up like the legends, just because like we don't hear like of a northern triangle or nothing, but what we do hear is ships. Okay, I'll give a great example. The Titanic hits an iceberg. Well, prior to the Titanic, other boats went down too,
Mm-hmm.
just not as famous as that one. But we've heard of ships just flat out disappearing in lakes and shit. I'm sort of just wondering if that's just what happened. Like so one of their ships, or maybe two of the three, even, because I can see the ships being lost to storms. We've heard of the big storms off the sea where it just capsizes the boat, the rogue waves and shit. How it's in Poseidon, the original Poseidon adventure, right?
Right.
So like I could see like a ship completely just getting overturned by a rogue wave, but it makes me think, well, was there a ship? Was one of these girls' husbands steering a ship and it just completely vanished? That would be insane.
Well, you had see. Let me think of what's the let you know. Let's incorporate the Flying Dutchman into this.
Right.
I mean, there's a legend. You know, I'm sure the sea's full of them, but something made it disappear, and then it turns into a ghost ship. I don't know, but there. I'll bring this up again. If you've ever been to Maine, and I'll tell all your viewers out there, there's something there, and I can't put my finger on it. And it's before I started thinking about Dark Shadows, but there's just something kind of a feeling that I have, and I can't. It's hard to explain. So I could see that off the coast of Maine. That they run into something. I don't know, another ghost ship, some kind of energy. I don't know.
You bring up a great point. The Flying Dutchman, Davy Jones, if you will,
Mm.
something made his ship disappear, right? And it's always been said, Davy Jones's locker, because it's sort of the pirate way of them immortalizing somebody who they feel fell to the sea, and they don't really they don't tell you what exactly the sea did to Davy Jones or the Flying Dutchman. But when you think about the imagination of it, it's like anything could have happened. Like literally, like a whirlpool could have just pulled the ship down,
Oh,
like a giant whirlpool. We don't know. The ship could have. You've heard of sort of. We've heard of parallel time. What if there were a whirlpool that led you to sort of where it turned
mhm.
the world upside down and it led you to another parallel time and that's where the ships went. And again, we don't. That's the insanity. That's a great thing about Dark Shadows. Like, there's so much possibility to what could have happened to these three women's husbands. Okay, I got the. I cheated. I wrote down the names today.
It's all being prepared just in case.
Am I right? As anyone could see, my writing is complete shit. Um,
It's it's
Rachel Comstock, Abigail Tolliver, Margaret Finley. So one husband's lost in a storm. What happened to the other two? And they just, again, instead of those times were so simple because there are women who were so loyal to their husbands, right? So blind loyal to it's, well, they're dead and I have nothing now. So they take their nothing and their grief and they destroy themselves. They'd rather be near their husbands, even in death, than live without them. How crazy is this legend?
well, it would be. I think it would. Well, I think it's kind of crazy. And what I'm trying to think a little bit more as like a writer. I'm not a writer, but if you're gonna really maybe do something with Widow's Hill, this legend starts attaching itself to a specific place. and it starts affecting that space. And how does it affect that space? Because does it just take one widow and then it draws in another one and another one, and then there you go, you got, I don't know, a vortex or some kind of a energy going there, and it's not a good energy.
That's a great point too, because when Roger's telling the story to Vicky, and Lewis Edmonds does a great job of this, he's sort of smiling, he's teasing her, but he's telling the truth. But even though he might not believe it's haunted, everyone in town says, yeah, Widow's Hill is supposed to be haunted. Everyone who lives in Collinsport knows about the legend of Widow's Hill. So in a lot of ways, I think Lewis Edmonds' character Roger is doing it for two reasons. One, to scare the shit out of Vicky. Two, to sort of baptize her as a new person in town, because everyone else already knows the legend. So if you live in Collinsport, oh, hey, you have to know about the legend of Widow's Hill, this place where these three women just leapt to their death because their husbands never came home. They never returned from the sea. You bring up a great point about it attaches itself to a place, and a great way of doing that is, too, when you really, the first name you ever hear called by the widows is Matthew Morgan. Because and it's crazy. He's not jumping off Widow's Hill, but they're very vengeful. The widows, like the three ghosts, like they're coming for revenge. Because, and I want to get your thoughts. Why do you think they're coming for? They're helping Matthew Morgan's ghost get revenge. So why do the widows help Matthew's ghost, do you think?
I was trying to think a little bit about this today. I think obviously Bill Malloy is tied to the sea, and he died it wasn't an accident. Well, yes and no, but he pushed him, and maybe part of it was avenging his death, and of course he gets drawn in. And I was trying to think about it today. Obviously, Josette was trying to save Vicky, and what are the widows' relationship with Josette and vice versa? Because it was in one of the most touching scenes, and Alexandra Isles did it. It was tough to see her tied up, and it must have been doing those scenes were exhausting. But do you remember what Joe said? She says, "Don't cry, don't be afraid." I mean, because Josette really cared about Vicky, and there was some relationship there with Josette and the widows, but the widows were pissed. I think they were pissed about Bill Malloy, and then Bill Malloy shows up, and he was just, they wanted Matthew dead.
They really, I think a lot of the reason they sort of helped Bill Malloy, you touched upon Bill's death. His body is found at the bottom of Widow's Hill because that's where he went off. That, to me, Matthew Morgan hits him over the head with the pen, and he goes off, and he says he didn't mean to do it. Now, the living might believe you, but the ghost, they're your judge, they're your jury, and if I'd like to think if you cause an unnatural death of Widow's Hill, basically, I think Widow's Hill now, because of the three ghosts, is meant specifically for someone to, like, okay, if you're so drowned in sorrow by the loss of your loved one, this is your place to come and take your life and be with them. This is that place. It's sort of like why the widows are so, I think there's a point to why the widows are calling Elizabeth. I don't think it's all in her mind. I don't think it's completely in her mind. Some of it, but not completely. And we'll get into that. But the widows, when they see Matthew Morgan kill Bill Malloy and Bill Malloy fall, they know it's unnatural. They know this isn't somebody who's sleeping to their death. They know, like I said, they're judge, jury, and executioner. So when they come for Matthew Morgan, it's because, hey, we know what you did, and you're ours now, buddy.
I'd never really, made that connection before, but that makes total sense, because you have a certain energy around that place, and having that a natural death, like you just said, it's going to mess it up. It's going to cause a disruption in the natural flow of things, and it's going to stir things up, and things don't like to be stirred up.
Right. Everyone thinks they're waiting for a fourth widow, so to speak. I don't know if I'm so sold on that. Where do you stand on that?
It could have come out of some, village legend that these kids just started making up, and like, all those little things, scary things that we used to talk about to scare each other as kids, and it just keeps being, purported into the future. I don't know if that's even the right word, but it just keeps going, and it could have just been something somebody made up.
Basically, it's a rumor somebody starts. Oh, they're waiting for a fourth legend or a
Right.
fourth widow, and it just grows and grows and grows and grows in the town of Collinsport. I love that. I love that. That is very good.
You know how village life can be when there's not much going on. People talk. I mean, that's what you do. You sit around the table and talk, at the Blue Whale or wherever.
This is every basically small town too. Like town gossip is the biggest thing. So when there's a rumor, a lot of times the rumor is reported as fact.
Yeah.
There's a movie, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, and the newspaper says when legend becomes fact, print the legend, because the legend's already so big and everyone believes it. So in a small town, legend is fact. They just keep printing the legend. It's the legend. That's the mystique of it. So if there's supposed to be this fourth widow, there's supposed to be a fourth widow. The hell with the truth. Right?
It's now the truth because we said it is.
Yeah, on this podcast. Damn it, it's the truth. There's not supposed to be right. There's not supposed to be a fourth widow, but to the town there is, and nothing else matters.
Yeah, no, grew up with that. It's going to happen, and everybody's waiting.
Right. Now, I think honestly, when Adam just went off all by himself, did the cannonball, I really think the widows on that day were like holding scorecards and like 10, no, 8.5.
Oh my God.
I got you on that one, didn't I?
Oh, well, I'm just having the visual in their 17th or 18th century outfits holding these scorecards. It's hilarious.
The things I think of on the fly, it's just like
Good.
You got to think the widows were watching, because that's all they have to do. Like they literally watch this hill to wait for somebody to come off.
Especially at night. During the day, okay, I think you're be okay if you stay away from the edge. But going there at night, all bets are off. That they own that place.
It's something Roger says that when Jeremiah told him to leave, and he says they've never gone. Now he's teasing Vicky, but he's right in a sense too. They've never gone. They're still here, and they'll never leave. That's what he's trying to get it to Vicky. And a lot of what Roger doesn't really care to realize is, you're right. He's absolutely right. It's just that crazy. What did you think of the widows calling to Elizabeth to come jump?
Oh, that was really eerie. And it's like, is she really hearing this? Is it just the wind? But I'm just getting I'm not kidding. I'm getting chills just thinking about it, because of the sea and all that. I thought it was very effective. It was chilling. And, we almost lost Liz. I thought it was effective. I thought it was scary.
I like how Barnabas is waiting in the wings, just look. This man, he lost somebody up there, and he looks at this place with like some like this like why do like I don't know if he hates Widow's Hill, but you can sort of tell like Barnabas and Widow's Hill aren't BFFs. you know, but I agree with you. Joan Bennett, I don't think it was like just the wind. I don't think this was all her mind. I think part of it was because, again, the thought of marrying Jason, do I take the cliff or do I take the vows? Give me the cliff any day of the week. And I really think if it weren't for Barnabas, Liz would have jumped.
Oh, I think the widows were giving her a way out.
Yep.
I had thought of that, but you're right. When certain things happen, when there's certain circumstances, and you're kind of open, your mind's open to that desperation, it lets the widows in. I get it now. That makes perfect sense.
That's the thing too. I don't to the widows. Now they might realize Paul Stoddard isn't really dead. But this here isn't about Paul's death.
Right.
This is about the misery of Liz's life and the idea of being miserable for the rest of her life. Well, hey, we have an alternate solution for you, and here it is. It's this hill. Come join us, because we don't want to see you be miserable here. We're not calling you to jump to be mean. We're calling you to jump because we'd rather you have this relief than be with that asshole. That Jason. I think Dennis Patrick does not get enough credit for his sinisterness as Jason McGuire, right?
I totally agree. I mean, he just is such a shit, and he's able to do it on all these different fronts with Carolyn, with Roger, with everybody, until Willie gets involved with the coffin. He's just able to just manipulate, and he's two or three steps ahead of everybody. But yeah, he's really a shit. And anyway, go ahead.
No, I agree with you. It really helps you understand why Liz is to the point she is of wanting to jump. Like Jason, you're though you don't want Liz to die, you would sort of understand if she did it. Like it would be as understanding, even though we never see the widows go off. Like we never see them jump. We know they're dead. We've seen the ghost. Because we know their legend, we understand them. This is that equivalent. We would understand why Liz would jump. We might not love it, but we get why. If it would have happened, we would have got why.
Well, she'd been isolated for what was it, 20 years?
Yeah.
She's had this stress with her. Her husband, she thinks she killed her husband, and the walls start closing, and she's had to run the Collins family enterprises. Her brother's a pain in the ass. All she really has is Carolyn, although she loves David and she wants David to take over at some point. But how much how much can a one person take that she had to be the pillar of that family and prop this whole thing up her whole adult life?
Right.
I don't know how much more she couldn't take anymore.
That's the thing too. Like she does not go. Here's the thing: to people who are new to Dark Shadows, Elizabeth does not go off the grounds. Like she'll go out of the house and walk around the estate, but she does not go into town. And in fact, she doesn't go into town until Carolyn gets arrested or ends up in an accident. And really, Vicky is the one who convinces her You need to do it. You need, and I'll get Alexandra Isles a lot of credit. That scene is really powerful. And when Elizabeth goes, it's like, she went. She went. The woman finally left the grounds. And see, because I don't count her being forced to leave during the Phoenix arc. That wasn't of her own will. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
this, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, yeah. I mean, she had to go to the hospital she had to go to the hospital in Boston, and that was under very, and she wasn't aware she was gone.
Even Roger's like, I don't know if we'll be able to get her to leave. He's like having doubts, like, yeah, we're gonna get your mother to leave. Okay, well, we'll see if that happens, and it did, but
In a catatonic state.
right, like she's like they're. I love how they snap their fingers in front of her, and Joan does not blink.
Yeah, yes.
What a performance,
Oh,
right? Like,
God, I noticed that too, Joel. I went, this is a grade A actress performer that knows her shit. I
yep.
mean, she must have brought everybody up a level in that cast, but I really admired that.
Joan Bennett, man, she had a hell of a career before Dark Shadows, but man, she brought. Yes, Dark Shadows did do something for her career, but she did a lot for Dark Shadows, and as our, everybody did, but she really brought an anchor to that show that needed it. And you can see that in in the early episodes when she's laying in that catatonic state and they're snapping their fingers and she's not blinking, and it's like, holy shit! I don't know what you had to do to train to do that, but God bless you, because that took talent to do it.
I
And just when she's contemplating the suicide, Joan Bennett is selling that, hearing the voices, and got that look on her face, that long look of the grave is much. Really, her repeating that line made that line all the more, the reality of the situation all the more terrifying. And my sea's the grave is my sea. Like, holy shit, right?
No, it's just old fashioned. How do I explain it? It's just old fashioned scaring you. The black and white, the good acting, the widows acting as sirens. You
Right.
know, like a legend. They're almost like the legend of the sirens in ancient Greece, of calling you to the sea, calling you to your death, and it just all worked.
Yeah.
It's terrific. It's good. It's good television. It's good filmmaking.
Now we know that Joan's character doesn't jump, so let's get to the most famous alumni of Widow's Hill ever.
Yeah.
The lovely, lovely
Oh,
Josette Dupre Collins,
oh,
played by Catherine Lee Scott.
oh, so beautiful.
Right. How drop dead gorgeous does Catherine Lee Scott look in Josette's dress before she goes off Widow's Hill?
Yeah, I know. All those great costumes. I know.
Right? Like, when we first see her dressed as like Josette in the present day, when Barnabas kidnaps her. I know I'm like getting off topic, but
No,
my God, does she look beautiful? Like, she always looks beautiful, but she looks absolutely stunning.
I exactly that dress, and the lighting that they do, and the candles, and I know we're off, but one of my favorite scenes, Jewel, is that whole monologue that Barnabas does with her up in her room, and he's just talking, and she's staring into the camera, and it fades into the face of the portrait, and I'm going, oh my God, Leela Swift. This was just so good, and she's so beautiful, and I don't know. We're digressing, but she really looked great. It's fantastic.
Please do. That's what this podcast is best for, digressing.
I had to rewind it and watch that whole thing over again. It's like, did this just happen? You just can't get any better than this. It was just terrific. And she's so beautiful. And the scenes in that dress when David thought she was the ghost,
Yeah.
and when she said she started calling him little boy, and then and then when she was kind of like drifting when he was there, little boy, where are you, and all that. So anyway, but what you said, she looked fantastic.
Right. And there's a scene too where she's got the music box and I'm Maggie Evans and she slams it shut. That was like, yes, woman. Let him know who's boss. Sure, he's gonna put you in a dungeon. But hey.
Maggie Evans was one strong person. I that was so great when she did that. I said, come on, Maggie, be strong, be strong. You're gonna make this. You be strong. I was just rooting for her.
Really, I mean, Catherine Lee Scott does an amazing job with the kidnapping of her character. It's really a fun watch, but I'm glad that they cast her as Josette. I mean, we know that Barnabas is kidnapping Maggie because she looks like Josette Dupre Collins, and Josette's fate. Now we didn't know which, until later. We didn't know Angelique's involvement till later. But how much more devastating was it to know that this woman did not necessarily jump of her own accord either?
Oh, that really got to me because we really don't know the circumstances. And then it's like Angelique set it up, and I thought, you effing bitch. Boy, you're gonna get yours one day. That is fucked up. That really got to me. I thought, if I could grab you by the neck through that TV, you'd be going down. I'm sorry, Joel. It just really got to me.
This is all. I'm going to put the blame where this should be. Okay, you ready for this? This is all Barnabas's fault for not shooting her in the head with the flintlock. Okay, this is what it is when you're a poor shot with a gun. I put the poll up. Who's the worst shot, Barnabas or Hawkins? Well, here's the thing. Look. Sure, Hawkins missed in 2 movies and a killer went on a killing spree. Sure, that's bad. But when you know you have one shot with a gun in 1795 and you shoot a woman who you know is a witch in the shoulder, you have gone from doing the right thing to severely fucking up.
I mean, I could have done that. Right. Jesus Christo. Oh, God. Well, Joel, it's either, and if you know you're not a good shot, maybe you should have thought about keeping it in your pants when you were down in Martinique, and none of this would be happening. That's the other end of that part of that bookend.
Here's the thing. When Barnabas was younger, to the kids at home, yes, Barnabas and Angelique had sex in Martinique when they were younger. They got it on, was it sure Barnabas is going to look at, oh, I was a young man. Do you hear the words? I regret it. No, who would? She's a smoking hot blonde. No one's going to regret that.
He still kissed Singer and couldn't resist her in 1795 when that arc started. That's like, dude.
And it's like, so now the woman you had sex with is working for the woman you're going to get married to. This screams of a Maury episode, only with way more consequences, actual consequences.
Yep. Yep.
Oh my God. But you're right. Angelique Angelique is just so stone cold. Laura Parker just gives a hell of a
Uh,
performance of the fact of Sarah. This is why I say, I love Laura Parker. I get why they went with the Judah Zachary storyline. And I love the Judah Zachary storyline. But in my opinion, I can never forgive Angelique for the things she did ever. Like, sure, she did some good things. But let's see here. She caused a woman to go off Widow's Hill. She put a spell on her. She caused Barnabas to get cursed, which caused the death of a child in Sarah Collins. She caused the death of Naomi Collins because Naomi loved Barnabas. If Joshua would have died, none of us would have cared. He had it coming. But other than that, the rest, it's like I can't forgive her because when Josette goes off Widow's Hill, I'm like
uh,
Jonathan Fritz screaming no is basically the words I couldn't get out because I was just still we knew it was gonna happen, right? We knew she was gonna go off. But the way she went off just
uh,
it makes the legend all that bigger, right? Her legend of going off.
you know, I saw this is pertinent. I saw an interview with Laura Parker once, and what she said about Angelique, she said Angelique didn't realize that her hatred was just and her revenge was destroying her.
Right.
And boy, Laura Parker, that is her character. She owns that character. She gets it. Wow.
Right.
And she was spot on with that comment.
Right. And it's just like when you watch 1795, that's exactly what's going on too. Like
Mm.
everything's just a destruction.
Yo, yeah.
It's like Josette's broken body
Ugh.
is basically it symbolizes what's going on with the Collins family in every way with the curse of Barnabas.
Mhm.
Barnabas's curse is destroying him from the inside out. Sarah's death, Naomi's death, and Josette's just really the icing on the cake of it all. And her headstone, it just makes you all the more. Again, I say she's the most famous alum of Widow's Hill. It's because her legend is just as big as the widows themselves. And
Oh,
now that
absolutely.
and now that we when you see it, it doesn't take away from it at all. It adds to it.
Absolutely. I mean, it really, you actually see what you're actually seeing the legend happening. It's
Yep.
it's in motion. The legend is in motion when she does that. And even before she does it, she starts getting scared because Angelique has created all this chaos and confusion, and there's nothing Barnabas can do to stop it. So it's the legend in motion.
How did you? How lucky is Adam to live after that jump? In all due seriousness, oh
All,
my god!
all the planets were in alignment. I mean, maybe he hit a very soft spot on the beach away from the rocks. Obviously, there's something in his physicalness and
Right.
what can't remember the doctor's name where all that stuff was going on that allowed him. Sorry,
Dr. Lang.
Dr. Lang, and which made him kind of semi superhuman.
Yeah.
Frankenstein was kind of superhuman because he could survive most things, not the fire, but he could survive most things, and that came out with after Adam fell off the hill.
I think what no one really talks about with Adam too, and this is something I really haven't gone into either. We know that Barnabas's vampire curse is somewhat in Adam, but I
Right.
think what doesn't get talked about is a lot of Barnabas's willpower that Barnabas still has is also part of Adam too,
Mm.
and I think Adam's willpower really is what causes Adam to survive. And in a lot of ways, not just his body too. I agree with you. It is his body, but I think that willpower of what Barnabas has had is somewhat in Adam too. And that's a lot of what causes him to honestly survive and land a perfect hand cannonball in the ocean.
It's a great point. No, I mean, you really thought that out. Thought that out well. So yeah, I agree.
We get one more victim of Widow's Hill, and it's Jeb Hawks going off of Widow's Hill. Poor Carolyn, right?
She loved him so much. You know, I'm at the point. I'm at the point of the show. I'm almost done. I'm right where Hortense gets attacked by Judah Zachary's body in the woods. So I've seen the Leviathan arc, but she loved him so much, and he wanted to be human. And you're right, poor Carolyn, and that goddamn Sky Rumson. I mean, fuck you. I'm sorry, I'm not holding back tonight. You son of a bitch. You know, I poor, and you know how much I love Nancy Barrett and Carolyn, and I thought, oh man. So that was just awful, and she just anyway. Go ahead, Joel.
That's the thing too. Sky Rumson's heel turn does not get enough credit in the Leviathan arc because nobody saw it coming. Even me. And I did the biggest mistake in Dark Shadows fan history, and I'll plead to this. And this is how great Jeffrey Scott is as an actor. When he told that lie to Angelique, oh, I just got a ride, I bought it.
Yeah.
Hook, line, and sinker. I thought, man, this is a legit dude. What the fuck was I thinking? He sold me hook, line, and sinker. And then the heel, the twist, the heel turn, Nicholas Blair showing up. It's like, you son of a bitch.
Joel, the look on Laura Parker's face when she walks into the living room and there's Nicholas Blair.
Sure.
I mean, nobody could have done it better than she did. I mean, I think I rewound that a couple of times, and the look on his face smiling. I mean, when I hear people say, "Oh, Leviathan," you know, that arc and stuff. Well, maybe it was bumpy at the beginning, but when Nicholas Blair came back, woo! And when Chris Bennett came on, woo! It was great, and that scene was great.
You want to talk about one of the coolest scenes too? When Barnabas burns down the antique shop. How badass is that moment, right?
That was good. Oh yeah. That's one of those things where when Barnabas is on a mission, nothing's going to stop him, and he does it. You can understand. You could feel the anger because you're like right there with him. It's like, do it, Barnabas, do it, and it's great. It's a beautiful thing.
No breathing will ever come from any room again. And it's like, that's right, son. Justice. And it's like beautiful. It's just, I agree with you. The Leviathan arc unfairly gets flack. It's a hell of a storyline. And Jeb going off with his hill just,
oh, it's awful.
Like, whether I felt anything for Jeb Hawks is beside the point. I can feel for Carolyn because this woman, by this point in time, had been through so much shit. And I mean, just to find that moment of happiness, and it's like, just to see it go off of Widow's Hill, they literally, like, you know how like in Jaws they put up the sign, do not go in the water, and no one pays attention to it. It's like, it's not there. That would be the Widow's Hill sign. There could be a sign on Widow's Hill, stay away from this hill, stay off this hill, stay away from the cliff. No one would pay attention to it.
Jewel, this is fantastic that you just brought this up. So I live on a cliff, and down the street, all the ends of the streets, it says unstable cliffs, stay back. Everybody literally goes over the railing because they want to sit down on the cliff. There's a little public park just south of me. They're all on the edge of that freaking cliff. You are so on it. It is true. It's like if you don't want to have them on the cliff saying, come over to the cliffs, do that. It says, oh, no, I'm not going there. They do the opposite. Hello? I'm sorry. You got me going tonight.
You should, listen, just be like, let me tell you about the story of Rachel Comstock, Abigail Tolliver, and Margaret Finley. Have a little campfire right there and just do your best creepy voice and start telling them about these girls that went off your cliff. Don't tell them it was a fake cliff called Widow's Hill. Just say, this was their cliff.
I'm going to do that. One day, it's coming. Mm-hmm.
It's like, are those ladies real? Of course they were real.
Of course they were real. I mean, they're kind of badass, too. I mean, don't mess with the widows.
That's right. Oh, my goodness, I'm awful.
Hey, Jewel, can I bring up one thing about Widow's Hill?
Sure.
One of my favorite moments, and even though it's not a widow, the first demise of Nicholas Blair. And when he starts going up in flames, one of my favorite moments in the entire series is that shit-eating grin that Jonathan Friend has on his face. I'm sorry. It was so perfect. I don't know if he ever quite did that again, but he was relishing Nicholas going up in flames. It's like, fuck you. You know, it was great.
But like, here's the thing, Dark Shadows, to me, that is Barnabas's middle finger to Nicholas. That smile is the equivalent of the middle finger to Nicholas Blair. You know, you're right. That grin is so good. It's like, it's one of the most underrated moments in Dark Shadows when Nicholas glows up and you see Jonathan's face, just ear to ear smile, like, finally that he got what he deserved.
Yep.
I don't care where he went, he finally got it. You know, I agree with you. That is a great moment. It's tops all time, man.
On Widow's Hill.
Yep, onward, right on. It's not even about the fact that it's not a matter of Nicholas not going over. It's just the fact that he goes up in flames and you see Jonathan in the bushes looking and like, yeah.
Now you can go down and terrorize Diablos. You're out of here, brother. Now it's Diablos' problem.
I could Diablos. Yeah. So you couldn't bitch smack the humans for me, could you? That's what that conversation was like too, probably. Do you think now Diablos is the devil, as we all know, right? Do you think we'll get a actual physical manifestation, a person playing the devil in the new Dark Shadows?
I and I'm going to say when we get the reboot,
right?
I think, yeah. I mean, and I think in your past podcast you bring up an excellent point. It's going to be, I think they will, and it's going to be somebody that's good looking and seems really nice, because that's dangerous.
That's the thing. Like, I remember, like, when thinking about the devil, okay, and in the 60s, if they would have they should have phoned Rod Serling and had him be the devil. Like, they're not canceling Rod Serling. I don't care who your relations group is. And people say, well, Rod Serling was so nice. That's the point. Rod Serling's so nice. He's got that voice, that nice voice. You want someone who you don't think could be the devil, but they are. They're nice, they're sinister, they're charming, all of it. And I've said this, and I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. If they cast anybody, I hope it is Justin Beat, because Justin has this great, nice voice, and he's really, really a nice dude. I've never heard him like be mean to somebody, but that's just it. You want somebody who's got a nice voice, who can be charming, but at that moment can turn on that sinister tone. And I think definitely Justin could do it.
I'm just gonna digress just for a second on a different character. That whole sense, and they didn't really use him, but when they brought on the actor that played Damien Edwards,
Yeah.
that was that kind of, and I know everybody makes fun of his clothes. It's like, okay, that's what people wore then, but he had this angelic face. And
Yep.
it's like, whoa, this guy's going to be, oh, this guy's going to be a problem, because those are the kinds of entities you have to really be careful of. And of course, he's doing this to Amy the whole time and takes her down to the basement and scares the hell out of her. And I wish they would have done something, but that's the same point. It's like, it's those angelic ones you've got to be careful of.
Why is Mr. Best so scary at times? Because he's so nice. He does not raise his voice. He doesn't have to. And you're right, Damien Edwards is a great, even better example, because he's just there and he's motioning. He doesn't necessarily talk. He doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to. He
Right.
has sweet face. He looks really kind. He is totally non-threatening. He's totally opposite of what he is. And Mr. Best looks like, a gentleman. Like he could be running Collinwood. He had a great estate. He's smooth, and
Yep.
and he doesn't look threatening. But that character, that's another one. That's, I guess, for another conversation. But OMG, Mr. Best. Oh God.
We'll have to do Satan, death, and everything in between the next time. That'll be I do think the Legend of the Widows really just is the one of the best things about Dark Shadows. There's a lot of great things about it, but Rachel Comstock, Abigail Tolliver, Margaret Finley, folks. Remember those names and etch them into your brain, because if you watch Dark Shadows, you surely should. It's really. I don't know if we'll ever get their actual backstory shown, but I don't think we need it shown. That's the thing. Those are the three characters. If somebody were to ask me, what's something that doesn't need shown? The widow's jumping, because you already, you know what I mean. You already get it. You did, like, we sort of needed to see Josette in a way. You know what I mean? Because it just made it all the more real.
Well, it had been talked about for so long. Remember that great scene with the power going out at Collinwood with Carolyn and Vicky, and that's another iconic scene of the entire series. It was perfect, but that was really about Josette jumping off the hill.
Yeah, Barnabas, they're in the drawing room and the power goes out, and Barnabas is standing there, and he describes Josette running from her lover. Now he's meaning him.
Yes.
But what's he do? Jeremiah. He doesn't really cough and say Jeremiah, but I did that just for fun. Yeah. But I love how he just, Jeremiah. Yeah, we'll pin it on him. Right.
Because we can.
Right. How many times does Jeremiah, even Roger does it, get thrown under the bus as an asshole? And like when you meet Anthony George's, like, Jeremiah, it's like, man, this dude is cool. He's like, he's really nice.
And he's really nice. And I don't know. And I mean, I don't think I don't think Mitchell Ryan, I love Mitchell Ryan, don't get me wrong, but right. It would have been a different character had he stayed on the show. And I don't mean to say that I'm happy that Mitchell Ryan left, because I wasn't, because he's a great guy, great actor. But Anthony George he was nice, and it all worked for him playing Jeremiah in 1795.
It really did. I think Anthony George isn't. I don't think Anthony George is a bad Burke Devlin, but he is a really great Jeremiah Collins. He really is. I mean, we hear Jeremiah gets thrown under the bus so much, and then you see Anthony George play him, and it's funny, but it's sort of it makes you tilt your head up when they start throwing him under the bus. It's like, was Jeremiah this much of an ass? No, but Joshua was. They're sort of they're mixing Jeremiah and Joshua, and when you watch 1795, you get it. You sort of get why.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Joshua is just, God bless Lewis Edmonds. He knew how to play so ruthless. He knew how to just turn it on, right?
You know, he and each one of his characters were a little were different. It wasn't the same character, but his stage training. I don't want to go off on this, but digress out. But the stage training of these actors, and Lewis Edmonds is a perfect example. It was so needed for this show because they were being asked to do so much, and his casting was perfect. I'm glad he stayed through the whole run of the show. He's another one that really elevated things.
He did. He really did. Roger, Joshua. To me, my favorite character of his is Joshua Collins because it was so fitting. Like him being Joshua was beautiful. Is there anything you want to add before we go?
I'd love to add a million things, but no, I just think that I think this is a great topic. Widow's Hill definitely has its own energy going on. I appreciate you having me on again, Joel. I really do. This has been such a great. Always an honor to be on your podcast, and I had a great time tonight. I had a really good time. I just want to say thank you.
Oh no, man! It's always a pleasure bringing people on and bringing you on and I love bringing people on to talk Dark Shadows. So anytime you just want to come on and hit me up on Twitter, if you have a free night or something, just hit me up on Twitter and let me know what night, and I'll schedule it. But because it's a lot of fun, to come on here and talk Dark Shadows with fans. It's like, look, I have an open door policy here. I really do. It's like fans are welcome to come on and talk Dark Shadows. For Rachel Comstock, Abigail Tolliver, Margaret Finley, Josette Dupre, and Jeb Hawks, and Adam's Perfect Cannonball. I'm resident of Collinwood, Joel Sains. He's Don Schmidt. We're two huge Dark Shadows fans. Man, first of all, thank you for coming on, taking the time to join me. I am honored, sir. Thank you. Have a great, great night, my friend.
You too. Thank you so much.
God bless, man.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.